Okay, welcome to Flash Acting 4, Lip Sync, Dialogue, and Accents. So in animation production, lip sync is always done first, and then the body animation is done, the character animation with the full body, and then facial animation is always done last. This video and the next one are very important. There's a lot of important acting tips regarding timing and acting choices. Alright, so let's take a look at what we're going for here in this class. We're going to animate some lip sync and do some timing for acting. So here's an example.
Everyone sign? Yes. Good. On we go.
We're going to focus mainly on lip sync and the timing of accents for dialogue, for speech. So I know in my example here there's some facial animation and there's a head turn. You can include that. I encourage you to include that from what we learned in the last class. Definitely put in a head turn and change the eye direction, do some facial animation to help express what he's saying. But in this video I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on what the lessons being taught in this class, which is basically lip sync and timing for dialogue. You can use the audio I've included in the dialogue layer, or you can download your own audio and import it into Flash. A great place to find some movie or TV audio clips is moviewaves.com or moviesoundclips.net. Those two are very good. The audio and animation has to be a minimum of 5 seconds long and less than 10 seconds. If you do wish to use your own dialogue, you'll need to put it into the dialogue layer for each symbol. So you can see here we have a dialogue layer. But if we jump into the shot comp, there's another dialogue layer here. And if you go inside the character, there'll be another dialogue layer at the bottom. You have to put it into each one of these. And if we go inside the character's head, you'll see another dialogue layer there, so we can animate the lip sync on his jaw. So you'll have to put it into each one of these by right-clicking on frame 1 and selecting Clear Keyframe. Import your own audio into the library and then drag it right onto the stage. As long as you have this layer selected, and then it'll come in. Make sure that your audios are in WAV file format. Other formats may not scrub very well. If you select frame 1 here in your dialogue layer with your audio in there already, if you go to the properties, under sound, under sync here, make sure it's set to stream. It might be at event or any of these other ones. Make sure it's at stream. That way you can scrub over your audio. Alright, so I'll just play our audio clip that we have in here already, just so you can see what it is. It's a clip from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Just before they're heading into the tour of the factory, Willy Wonka says this line.
Everyone sign? Yes. Good. On we go.
Alright, so let's double click on the head, or on the shot comp. Okay, so now this is the full body character, but I've hidden all of his pieces. So we just have his head for this exercise. So let's double click to get inside here. We're going to do the lip sync first. So you can see here, once you double click into the full body comp, this is just his head. But all the other layers of his body are hidden. I just X'd out and visited them. Double click on the head to get inside, and we have the jaw here. So we're going to animate the lip sync first. Alright, so now the first thing you want to know about lip sync is there's a number of different phonemes that we use, and phonemes are mouth shapes that are used to express the sounds visually. So I'm just double clicking on the jaw to get inside here, and you can see that the mouth is made up of different parts. There's a bottom lip line, cheek fold, lip color, lip fills, top teeth, tongue, bottom teeth, inside mouth. Now these you don't really need to go in here at all. So I'm going to double click in space here just to get back out. You don't really need to touch that inside stuff at all. So all that stuff is inside this jaw. If you select the symbol, go to the properties, select where it says first, select that text field with it highlighted, and right over here, and then up and down arrow keys. Just to scroll through the mouth. So if we go to 1, it's a closed smile mouth. Now a closed mouth can be used for M sounds and P sounds. So we'll go to the next one. This is just a toothy grin here. It can be used for S sounds and T sounds. And then we have 1, 2, 3 versions of an open mouth, which can be used together, one frame apart, just to get the mouth opened. At times we can do that. And then the next one after the widest open mouth is the L phoneme. This will be used for L sounds specifically. I wouldn't really use it for anything else. Next one is this shape where the tongue is squeezed between the teeth, and that's more for like a TH sound, a th sound. And then we have this phoneme is used for F sounds and V sounds. So we have the bottom lip tucked into the top teeth there. And this is for R's for the most part, and oo sounds. The ones I just showed you were all happy mouths. These are all happy mouths here, from 1 to 10. And then when we get to 11, it starts all the same phonemes, but in sad mouths. So this is the sad mouth, again, for M and P, S and T, and then 3 versions of an open mouth for ah sounds, L, TH, F, and V sounds, R, oo, and then we have this extra one at the end, which is helpful for some sounds. If you hold down your arrow key, it'll run through all of them. A very important thing for lip sync is that it takes time for sound to actually travel from somebody's mouth to your ears. There's a slight delay, and in real life, when we're listening to someone talk, we just sort of accept. We've been looking at people talk all our lives, and we just sort of accept that whether we can detect it or not. We're so used to seeing it that it just seems right to us. It feels right. So you'll find in animation, if you pose the mouth shapes right on the sound, it seems to be late. It seems to actually be behind, or the mouth, the lip sync seems off. So what we're going to do is we're going to pose the mouth shapes a frame before the actual sound, so that the mouth shapes are actually happening a fraction of a second before we actually hear the sound, and then this causes the lip sync to just seem like it's right on. So what we're going to do is scrub through and listen. I'm just going to play it one more time to hear what he's saying.
Everyone signed?
Okay, so everyone signed. The E in everyone is what we're going to do first. Now if you scrub, you sort of hear it right at frame 6. So we're going to actually set a key at frame 5. We're going to do the E in everyone at frame 5. So it's a frame before we actually hear the sound. We're going to select our jaw here, this symbol for the mouth, and go to the properties, click on the text field here, and just scroll through to see which mouth shape we want to use first. Now I'm going to go with the sad mouths here. So we'll start at 11. Actually, we'll have to make frame 1 also 11. Alright, so the sound on frame 5 has to be an E for everyone. That should work. It's the smallest open mouth. Now, another important thing to note for lip sync in cartoons or animation is that we don't want to have mouth shapes posed one frame apart from each other most of the time, unless we're doing those 3 open mouths together to get the mouth open. Most of the time. Sometimes you do put the keys right together, but usually they're spaced at least 2 frames apart, just so that the mouth doesn't seem like it's flickering too much. We want to have it look as smooth as possible. Another thing to think about is Muppets. Muppets are puppets. If you grew up with Sesame Street or the Muppets, watch the Muppets and see how the puppeteers move the mouths. They'll open the mouths just on the syllables, so it's very simplified. They don't open the mouth for every letter of every word, and it's very similar in animation. I'm going to go 2 frames down and key it at frame 7, and we're going to use that F and V mouth, that one there. So we have Ev. Now we're going to skip the R in everyone. We're going to skip the R and just go right to the E, because it's really quick. The way he says it, he doesn't really pronounce the R very well. So you have to sort of, depending on the audio clip that you're listening to, you have to listen to it, scrub through it, and just decide the most important phonemes to put in. We're going to go back to the open mouth for every E. So now you're saying every, now 1. We have to get the word 1 out. We're just going to go 2 frames down the timeline, and you can see that we're all 2 frames apart here. And for the most part, lip sync's going to be around 2 frames apart for most of the time. Not all the time, because sometimes you'll hang on a letter, you'll have it hold for a while, and sometimes they speak really quickly, but you got to be careful with that. If they speak really quickly, you don't want to put the keys right next to each other, unless you're doing mouth shapes that are very similar to each other. Okay, so he's going to say 1. I'll set a key. Almost every time I set a key, I scrub through. I'm just going to move that back. So I'm going to shift this whole thing back because it's starting to be too late. So when he's saying 1, the oo and 1, so you can see the mouth popping into that proper shape. This is a situation where I'm going to go 1 frame apart and set a key, a small open mouth, and then 2 frames apart, and we'll go to the next open mouth here. Actually, this is where he's pronouncing the N in 1, so we'll go with the teeth. Yeah, this is used for ST, and also you can use it for consonants like N. So we have the word everyone. Let's just play it and see how that looks.
Everyone sign?
And this works out well because he's pronouncing the N shape, and then he's going to go right into an S sound. S for signed. So we're going to hold that S, that teeth shape for a while for the S sound. And then he's saying the ah for signed, and you can hear the sound right on frame 17. We're gonna key it at frame 16. And then for signed, he kind of holds on the ah and signed. So we're gonna go 2 frames down, and we're gonna open the mouth. We're gonna go for the next open mouth shape. And then we're going to do it again 2 frames down. We're going to the largest open mouth. And then we can cycle this right back down again. We're going to set another key. Select the symbol, start cycling it back down to the smaller mouth, or the medium one. And then he's starting to pronounce the N in sign, so we're gonna go with the teeth now. Okay, another note here for lip sync. If they don't speak for even a beat, you want to close the mouth.
Everyone sign? Yes. Everyone sign? Yes.
He doesn't stop talking for too long there, so we could maybe hold the teeth, but I'm gonna actually close it. I'm gonna close the mouth. We'll hold it for 3 frames, set a key, and let's close this mouth for yes. So we can start it earlier before we actually start hearing the sound, just a frame or 2. Sometimes it's 2 frames before. So he's saying yes. So we can start with, let's try starting it with the teeth. It's another key 2 frames down. It's another key 2 frames down, and we're gonna open the mouth up here. So he really draws that out for quite a while, so we're going to go 2 frames down again. You can open that mouth as wide as you can with, 1, 2, 3 frames, or 3 keyframes. Yes. Okay, so we hear the S on the S at frame 43, so we'll start it at, we'll go to frame 42, the frame before.
Everyone sign? Yes.
Okay, that works out. You could even, before the S sound, you could even make the mouth start to close a little bit here. You can put a keyframe in between and bring it down to this mouth, the medium open mouth, and then that way it'll be a little smoother that way. So after he says yes, he holds for a bit.
Everyone sign? Yes. Good.
Okay, so he holds that S. The S is drawn out a little. So we'll give it 4 or 5 frames down the timeline. The S starts to dissipate, and then we'll just bring it down to a closed mouth.
Good.
Okay, so the next word is good. The G sound in good, we start hearing it around frame 60. So we'll go to frame 59, set a key, and we'll use for good. We'll just start with the good sound. We'll use this word, or we'll use this phoneme. We'll go 2 frames down, and the sound in good we'll go with. I wouldn't use this one. That's more for oo sounds. This is like an sound. That would work better. Usually used for R sounds, but that'll work for this in this situation. Be careful of that oo shape. Don't overuse that. I would only use it for this shape here. I would only use that for oo sounds. The D is kind of drawn out too. He said good. I'll go 2 frames down, and we'll go with the teeth. This may or may not work. We're gonna play it and just check it out. Animation's never bang on the first time. We're blocking here. Or sometimes it is if you're highly experienced. Okay, I'm gonna leave the teeth for this one because we closed the mouth for the separation in the other 2 words. So I'll leave the teeth. And then he says, on we go.
On we go.
Alright, so we hear that right at frame 80, so go to frame 79, set a key. And then we're gonna start with the progression of open mouths. Actually, I'm going to go with the smallest one. I'm going to skip the medium one on the next frame, on the next keyframe. Set a key, and then I'm going to go with the biggest one because he's yelling. And then the on, so we're going into the N sound in on. So we'll start to close the mouth here. So I went with the smallest one on this frame here, the biggest one, and then the smallest one again. And then let's go down to the teeth to complete the N sound. On. Okay, so I'm going to shift everything back because we need space here for the oo and we. On we go. And I'm going to use that oo sound for we, for the W. So I'm going to shift this whole block back 1 frame because I need more space. I don't want to put it 1 frame apart because from this shape to the oo sound, the oo phoneme, from this phoneme to the oo phoneme, it's going to pop. So try and get it 2 frames apart. Really want to hold the phonemes as long as possible, no little than 2 frames. So let's go to, here we go. I'm just gonna play the whole thing.
Everyone sign? Yes. Good. On we go.
Another important note too here is you want to hold, like whenever you have an oo mouth like this, you want to hold it as long as possible. Also too, the closed mouths for M and P. If he's pronouncing an M sound or a P sound, you want to hold it closed, otherwise it won't read. the audience won't see it because it'll go by too fast. I'm going to shift the whole block back again. Hopefully it's not going to seem late, because I want to hold that ooh sound as long as possible before he goes into the E and we. Okay, so we'll key that. We'll go to the we, set another key. We'll use that for E. Actually, we'll just open it up as wide as we can. Let's exaggerate a little bit. He's going to say go. So we'll go down to the smaller open mouth for the G sound. And then go. Again, I wouldn't use this for go, for the O and go. This is more for an ooh sound, not an O sound. So let's use this one. He drags on that O sound. So just as it's starting to dissipate, we'll bring it back to the... Alright, so we're pretty much done our lip sync here. Let's zoom back out and watch it.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
So let's get out of this area, double click in the space here, and let's go to where we have the head symbol. So now we're going to start adding in some accents. Now that we have our lip sync, first thing you want to do is select the head symbol in your properties. You want to make sure it says play once and from frame 1. It means it's going to play what's happening inside the symbol once, and it's going to play it from frame 1, since we have 1 here. When you're doing any kind of character animation, you always want to pose the character on the vowels. This is very important. If you watch any animation at all, any TV series, episode, any feature animation at all, I would say 80-90% of the time they're going into their pose, or they're accenting with their head. An accent's just a small movement with the head, usually, or it can be a small movement with any part of the body, really. They're going into their poses and they're accenting on the vowels most of the time, on the vowels of the most pronounced word. Full body poses go on the vowel of the most pronounced word, and then accents, with small accents with the hand or the head, can be on other vowels of other words that aren't as pronounced. Accents, so they're just small movements with the head, hand. It can be really any body part. They kind of usually go in between, especially in flash animation. We'll go with a big pose. It'll hold, and then we'll hold that pose and just accent with the head or a hand or some other body part. We'll just do small accents here and there until we go into the next big pose. So let's listen to our audio.
Everyone signed?
Okay, so the first most pronounced word is signed. And you don't want to do it on every single word either, because you'll have a situation where the animation looks overposed. So you have to find the vowel in this pronounced word, the word signed. It's the I is the vowel. And I would follow the same thing I said about lip sync. We're actually posing the mouth a frame before the actual sound happens. I would do the same thing with the body and your accents. Your posing and your accents should happen maybe just slightly before the actual sound, and then it'll feel bang on. So let's go find where the I isn't signed. So the I in signed happens, you can hear it at frame 17. So you can see the frame right here. So let's go to frame 16 and set a key. I'm just putting that key there as a place marker so I know that's where the head's actually going to move. So let's go 3 frames back and set another key. Alright, so on frame 16 now we can move our head a little. So we're just going to block this out just like we always do. So if you play it.
Everyone signed? Yes.
Okay, now one really important thing you have to remember in Flash as well, I think I explained it in the last class, but when you key these, when you put keyframes now on the head, because we have animation playing inside the head, you put a keyframe on the head, you select the key, take a look at the frame number you're on, so this is 13. If you select the symbol, and then look in the properties, this has to be on 13, this has to match this number. Then we go to the next key, check out frame 16, select the symbol, and we have frame 16. Now if you shift this key, see we go to the keyframe on 16, we shift it over to 20. Now it's on frame 20. You'll see here that it's on frame 20. If you select the symbol now, it still says 16. Now so if we start shifting keys around, you have to select the symbol and change this to match the number inside here. Otherwise what it's going to do is it's going to play the head from frame 16 inside this symbol. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to put this back to 16. So you only have to worry about that if we start shifting keys around, which will happen because after we block, we usually adjust our timing. And then you just have to go through the head. It's usually just the head, or if you have any hands that swap symbols, you have to do that with the hand as well. You only have to worry about it with symbols that have animation happening inside of them. Okay, so we have an accent on signed.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
Okay, so yes is pretty pronounced, and then the vowel in yes is the E, so we're going to find where the E sound is. So it's about frame 38 and 39. We'll go with 38 because it's further behind, and we'll set a key there just as a place marker, and then I'm going to go 4 frames back, or let's go 3 frames back. The E and yes, that's where we're going to have our big movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch his head out on this E sound where he says yes, because he shouts it. We'll give him a bit of an antic and an overshoot for this yes. I'll go down a little bit here on the timeline, just set a key, and then we'll antic on this center key, overshoot on the next one, and then we'll settle on the last one. So I'm actually going to set a key for all of these right now, and then I can shift them around later. This is our first key of this movement. Second one's our anticipation, so let's actually rotate it a bit, maybe bring him down a little, and we'll squash his head down, and then stretch it out at approximately an equal amount. So we'll just keep that real subtle, and then we're going to overshoot on the next frame for the E and yes. And then you can see why I set that last key, just so that it settles back to its original shape, so I don't have to eyeball it. I'd have to look in the properties to see what the actual dimensions are, but it's easier if you just set a key at the end so it settles back to normal. So if we just play that, play the whole thing.
Everyone sign? Yes. Good.
Okay. And I'm going to leave good. I'm just going to leave that one alone because we don't want to overpose this line of dialogue. We don't want it moving around too much. You definitely don't want them, moving on every word.
Everyone sign? Yes. Good. On we go.
Okay, so on we go. That's going to be a big movement. Now he would probably, if we had his whole body animating here, he would probably anticipate with his whole body, and then he would go into a big pose for on we go. Because on's the most pronounced word in that dialogue.
Good. On we go.
On we go. He yells on, so he would anticipate before on and then go into a big pose for on. So I'm just going to move his head around a little bit more here. Okay, so he yells it right at frame 80. We'll go to frame 79 and set a key, because that's where he's going to go into his big move. So that move's going to happen quickly. So I'm kind of animating backwards here. This is helpful though, because it's a great technique to so you don't have to move things back in Flash. So I'm going to go back 2 frames, set another key. So these 2 keys are basically going to be our big movement. It's going to happen right on frame 79 here. We're going to anticipate on this pose. 3 or 4 more frames back, and this is going to be for our anticipation, the space between these 2 keys. All right, so this is where we're going to start the movement. It's going to anticipate on the next key here, and then it's going to go into our big pose here, or actually this will probably be an overshoot, and then we're going to settle. So we'll give it a few extra frames to settle. Not going to do anything with this first key. The second key, we're going to anticipate it. This is right before he says on, right before he shouts on. So we're going to move it back. I'm moving it back and rotating it. Put on our onion skin and you can see how far away I'm moving the head. So we'll just flip back and forth. So of course this whole body would be moving here. This isn't really this is less of an accent and more of a just sort of simulating what he would do. On we go. So this is when he shouts, and this would probably be more of an overshoot. So I can actually skew him a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, copy frames, we'll paste it to the end, and we'll get rid of that skewing. Okay, so for the settle, we're going to put his head back straight. So if you want, you can put a head turn in here. I know I didn't do it for this example, but I'm just trying to speed things up a little bit for this video. We did a head turn, we did 3 head turns in the last video, so you know how to do them. Now let's just go and make sure that our keyframe numbers on the timeline are matching up with the actual symbol instance. So this is frame 16. So you can see it here. Just take a look here and select your symbol and take a look in the properties. It should be play once on frame 16. So we'll go to the next frame. That's 31. This keyframe for the head is on 31. So we'll select the symbol. It's on 31. So just quickly go through and just check them all. 35, 38. Select the symbol. Look over here. 41. Go to the next frame. Select the symbol. 72. Look over here. Look over here. Just do this quickly. 77, 79, 79. I can't remember if I shifted anything. 83. Oh, the last one is 83 over here, and it says 79 here. So 83. Yeah, otherwise the lip sync won't play properly. All right, so let's just check it out. Let's see what we did with the blocking here.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
All right, so let's tween those, and let's play that.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
Okay, so what we'll do to finesse this is add some eases or cushions to some of these movements. Because I'm scrubbing through this a lot, I'm going to just shut the audio off for a minute, just so we don't hear it as we're scrubbing. It's kind of annoying. Okay, so this is a pretty quick movement. What I'm going to do is put those keys closer together so this movement's quicker, and then we're going to cushion it. So I'm going to give it about 4 or 5 frames instead of key. So that'll create lots of in-betweens for us here. And let me just take a look at that movement. He's moving back. So what we're going to do on this last new keyframe we put on is just move it back a tiny bit more. So very small movement, lots of in-betweens. And we'll tween that and just scrub over it. So that's a nice little cushion to this movement. Goes quick and stops and then moves slowly. So let's place our cursor or our time marker here right where the in-betweens are. And we've done this a lot of times before. Let's go to the properties under tweening where it says ease. Just drag that to 100 or type it in. That's an automatic ease function for Flash. And that just concentrates all of our in-betweens to this last key, or favors this last key. So that's a little smoother. Okay, so this movement where he pops his head up should be a little quicker. So I'm just going to turn the audio back on so I can hear that. I'll play it again.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good.
Maybe we can exaggerate this anticipation a little bit and just bring it down just a little bit. And exaggerate this overshoot as well.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good.
Okay, so let's give this a little bit more of an ease. So I'll just separate these keys a little, and we'll use Flash's function, ease function, just to favor the last key a little bit.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
Okay, so we'll ease out of this first pose, just so this isn't such a linear movement. So let's go in the middle and ease out. We'll go the other way and go minus 10, minus 100, sorry. So that'll favor this first key here. And that means that the in-betweens are closer together at the beginning, so it moves slower. And I'm actually going to separate these keys out a little bit so it does it more. Let's just play it again.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
Okay, I think I want him to have his head a little straighter here. We can overshoot with the position of the head and not so much the squashing. And we'll settle it about that much. So I'm just adjusting the overshoot here, bringing it up and to the right a little. And we're going to cushion the end of this here too. So I'm going to give it about 4 or 5 frames on the timeline. And just bring it back a little bit just so the settle is nice and cushiony at the end. Bring it down and to the left a little bit. We'll tween it. And then I'm going to leave my marker in the middle here in these in-betweens, and we'll ease to 100 to favor the last key. You see as the overshoot is right on the O and on. So that's what you want there.
Everyone signed? Yes. Good. On we go.
Okay, in the next class we're going to be working on some gestures. We're going to be doing the entire upper body this time, and it's going to be the same. We're going to use the same dialogue. You can use the same dialogue if you use the different audio clip. You can just use the same one, just so we don't have to animate the lip sync again. And we're going to do the entire upper body this time with in a medium shot. So save this file, and we'll be using it for the next class.